Hello and welcome to episode 8 of Agents of Clix, a bi-weekly podcast on everything Heroclix. My name is Sean and I'm joined as always by Christopher Dunn and Dale DeAndrade. Alright guys.
Hello.
Hello.
You been up to much since the last podcast?
Absolutely nothing.
And I haven't done enough. Well, I've done a bit. Been playing, practicing a bit for nationals and trying to start up a group at a different store as well in the northeast. So reasonably busy, I suppose.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of practice, but nowhere near enough. But fortunately, I have a simple team, as you pointed out last week, Chris.
Well, not that simple. I've made it more complicated now for
You've made it very complicated, yes, which I'm gonna touch on later. But so not much in terms of practicing for me. Need some more. It's only two weeks. Is it 2 weeks today when they?
Yeah.
Well, depends on what you're listening, but we're recording on the 22nd, so 2 weeks.
So
well, tomorrow, technically, because it's a Sunday of the final.
Yeah, I was going to say this time in 2 weeks we'll know whether Dale's qualified or not.
Oh, God.
So no pressure.
Yeah, I think I'll be okay. I get 2 shots at least.
I'm sure you will. Are you doing both of them?
Well,
yeah.
We'll see. If I pass the first one, maybe. Depends if there's anything
Is
else
it 2
interesting to do.
sealed qualifiers, like?
Yeah.
It's 2 sealed qualifiers, and I feel like in a set as I don't want to say balanced because it really wasn't as level as Deadpool, where there's no like standout. Oh, you've pulled this standard rare figure, you have instantly won. Like say what something like Juggernaut was for Ultimate X-Men, where it was a really easy to get figure, but it put you at like such a high like power base compared to everyone else. It doesn't have that really. Like the chases are all really strong for the points,
But you're not going to see them, so.
But you're not likely to see them, and I don't have to beat all of the chases. I just have to get in like the top 4, like top quarter, and that's obviously gonna have a couple of people in it. Hopefully, who've already qualified. I think it's quite easy to qualify if you're a competent player and you roll the dice twice. I can't see it not getting through. I still think Ajax might win it.
He'll be fine.
Like I think he's the closest thing to a pull the piece, and you've got a really good chance for it. But there's no one overly powered in that set. Good set for it.
Yep. Oh well, time will tell. In 2 weeks' time, we'll be sitting. Well, we won't be down there yet, will we, Chris? But yeah, we'll be no doubt seeing you on the Sunday. I'll probably no doubt be getting beat off you on the Sunday. So.
But I don't know. When was the last time I played? I don't think I've played during one of these kind of events yet.
No, you haven't. Not a big event like this, no.
We'll all right. Well, we'll see.
Oh,
maybe.
Okay, right. Well, we'll move on swiftly on. Plenty of news this week.
No, not really. There's been pictures shot out of the digital mock-ups they make of the gravity feed for the movie sets, the Wonder Woman and the Thor that's coming out. Nothing super stand out amongst them. I mean, I've seen the Wonder Woman, and I have to be honest, off the top of my head, I can't remember seeing a single figure of it. Just nothing jumped out as exciting. Thor had a Gladiator Hulk in it. That was cool. But yeah, we've seen those 2, but there was no like dials, no full sculpts, just the little pictures in the corners of the 3 or 4 sculpts they want to show off. There's been 2 other mock-ups for the Fast Forces sets for the 15-year anniversary ones. We've got What If with a strange Avengers lineup of Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, Daredevil, Punisher, and Nico Monroe from the Runaways. Yeah, that's fine. And then the Justice League, it's the same Justice League we've had in like, what was it? There was actually a Justice League one. The new 52 set came with this exact lineup. So it's just Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Cyborg, and somebody help me off the top of my head. Green Lantern.
Yeah,
and
Green
it's just
Lantern,
the Hal Jordan Green Lantern. dials look okay. The sculpts look okay. Flashes, as usual, they stand out for me, but nothing of them is exciting. I mean, it's a set called What If and Elseworld, and as far as I can see, they're all just standard universe ones, except for the Punisher hasn't got a gun, and Nico's in a starter set for some reason. Anyone got anything to say about any of those 4 bits of weirdness?
Standard figures, I would say, certainly for the DC one. Nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing else worldy about them from what you can.
On the outside, so, I'm a little disappointed with that.
Yeah.
But that's just
as I think I said to you before, I don't mind the Fast Forwarders or starters being sort of standard figures that you see all the time, because that's sort of the starting point for people to buy. Yeah, I think people buy them, and hopefully there'll be some more interesting stuff in the actual set itself.
I'm just wondering about Nico. I mean, I don't understand where she comes from. Like, why her? I really just think it's a very strange figure to put in there amongst that list. I mean, you look at it and you just think, why is she not Captain America? Like, have street level Punisher, Spider-Man, Daredevil, and then the Avengers, like the top end ones, and have the kind of trinity of Marvel there. It just seems a bit weird. I don't know. Actually, I tend to bet she ends up being the broken as hell piece that you buy the set for. Like, there's always that dirt cheap support piece that does something stupid.
One piece, isn't there?
It's going to be her. I mean,
yeah.
But there you go. And then apart from that, there is just an absolute bucket ton of Avengers versus Avengers Defenders War. I mean, last week we've had the 5 videos for the unboxing. We've had 2 chases. I think we actually might have already talked about the Daredevil. The Daredevil chase.
We mentioned it, but I don't think we talked about the
stuff,
the powers and stuff, because they've had the reveal now on Heroclix.com.
So we've now got 3 chases in total to look through, and a starting feel for the set. I think we're about halfway through it in its entirety. There doesn't seem to be any primes in it, but they've made up for it by having like 4 more figures per rarity. I think it's like the biggest set I've ever seen.
And a lot more shifting focus.
A lot more shifted focus. I mean, so far we know that we've got Doctor Strange, we've got Wasp, Black Panther, Punisher, Elektra, all with shifting focus. That's all of them, isn't it?
Vision.
And Vision, who has shifting focus density change. They all seem to have 2 or 3 versions, and that's it. They all seem to be. Are they all 50 points?
No, some of them, like Wasp is 40 and Black Panther's 30, isn't it?
Wasp is 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the whole set has the.
They're all relatively low points.
Yeah, the set has a whiff of Joker's Wild about it, of that kind of points values where you're getting really small, really focused versions of all of these characters.
Yeah, they've given like the Green Arrow dial to the Hawkeye.
Yeah, I mean it's literally the dial.
Apart from they made it 10 point cheaper though.
Yeah.
Is there any difference?
With the exact same dial. No, just the exact same dial. It's got some different keywords.
It's got Defenders on. Hawkeye's just got Defenders. That's depressing. Well, there you go. Just at least they've learned that dial wasn't good enough for 40 points, apparently. Maybe we must have a better trait. The Hawkeye just gives the plus one.
No, just things are pretty much the same.
There you go.
Same thing, I think.
Standout things is, the shifting focus. There is a lot of it. None of them's a standout broken. The Doctor Strange seems to be the strongest one of it, because he is the character with the most variety amongst what he does.
Well, I think you've seen those 3, though. I think the other ones, you've seen 3 of him, and I think things like the Punisher, you've only seen 1 of, Vision 2 of, so until you see all 3, you might not. But I think at least with him, each of them have a specific role, well, something like Wasp, it just seems a bit samey for the two that you've seen.
Yeah.
So, hopefully Punisher will be different because it's basically him with different weapons more than likely.
Yeah, probably.
So,
that Punisher though, that rocket launcher is insane.
That looks good. Yeah.
Other thing.
And I think I've said to you for the Punisher as well, if you can combo that with, because slightly the weapons from the van, because it's a bit, it's not like unclear. I think it should work where the combo together, but because it's like with the weapons from the van, you're sort of locking your attack and damage, but then Punisher's own sort of weapons on here are saying, well, instead of dealing null damage, you deal this damage instead. So it should work by the wording, but it depends if they change the rules, if they don't really want the intention of them to combo together.
But apart from that, I think the only things that really stand out is that there's not an awful lot of villains. There is a lot of shift and focus. There is the Defender's trait, which is exactly the same as the Justice Society trait, the good old days one. You get to borrow someone's defense, and each one brings a specific type of extra bonus, whether it's +1 defense from range, plus combat, a weird probability control. But there's always that kind of thing. There is the Marvel Knights trait, which just screams like their version of a team ability. You beginning of the game, all characters with this trait, so your whole team has to have the same option. You either have a minimum attack value of 10 on all of your Marvel Knights, or they all become wild cards. The wild card option sounded really cute until I started looking into it, and if you're playing a Marvel Knights themed team, your options at the moment for team abilities is you can have Avengers. Marvel Knights just apparently all come without team abilities. Just none of them. There's what's her name? The 15 points girl, Jessica Jones. She is a Marvel Knight, and she also has Avengers, so she might become a wild card once in a blue moon. But
she got Avengers. She's the one that turns off stealth. Yes.
So she might see some play.
It's nice to have little.
She's not hugely important, like as a role, but I mean, it's only 15 points. If you play an Avengers team, have the thing spare, she can theme team at the absolute least. Is anyone really else? I think I'm going to mention the Chasers and the Earth's Guardian Doctor Strange is in more depth.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I think I'm going to hold off until we've got the full set and have a full review. Is that sound like a plan?
Yeah, it's fair enough, yeah.
So I'll do the Chasers first because they're a little bit easier. So we've got 3 so far. We've got the Hawkeye, the Hawk Guy, as they've dubbed him. He's got street clothes, doesn't want to be an Avenger version anymore. He has essentially 6 clicks. First 3 is a case of running shot, precision strike, energy shield deflection with lowish damage, but precision strike always makes up for that. He has improved targeting for hindering terrain characters, and his running shot isn't just running shot. It is running shot where every single time he does a running shot and hits a character, he can running shot again, but only to shoot somebody he's not shot already, so he can kind of bounce around the map and just shoot the whole team, essentially. It's not a huge amount of damage, but it's interesting. And then he goes...
Does damage depletion... Sorry, just a quick question, I can't remember now. Is damage depletion modifier minimum 1 on him?
I don't know off the top of my head. I
can
can only assume so.
I should know this, shouldn't I?
Otherwise, it would be completely useless. Because he would literally get the second shot off, and that would be it. Unless that's the intention of it. But there you go. I think it'll be good because he has the improved targeting for characters. I think.
No. It says minimum. It is minimum 1.
2 on one person, and they can just ping 1 off everybody else.
Well, you can just. As long as you can see them,
as well, which I think is going to help him a lot at getting all that off. The second half of his dial is sidestep, 11 attack, willpower, and 3 damage with range combat expert. I think he's only 65 points. He is a very standard style of secondary shooter, kind of a secondary attacker shooter. But I think he's one of the better ones for 65 points. I still think I'd pick Fenris if I was just picking anybody. but the Avengers keyword is just gold.
I think because you can be called in with a level 7 as well. So, because you might want to... If you can set it up where you can get some enhancement stuff going on him to get that damage up. Because he's a bit squishy, played on the map, maybe. So anybody that's like a decent call-in, that's going to have a modern card, I think.
He doesn't have a modern card. He does have
He
the
has
shield.
shield. He's got a shield keyword.
This is true. Yeah, I suppose you'll be losing the 75.1 as well, so you'll have to do. Yeah, it's fine. Sure, anything on him?
I quite like him. I was a bit sort of meh about him when I watched the video. Not a big Hawkeye fan. But the more I've looked at his style and kind of thought, well, yeah, he's only going to be pinging you for 1 damage, but he's got that precision strike as well. So you can't reduce that any further. You're going to be taking that 1 damage. Then yeah, I quite like him for 65 points. He's not a bad investment. Although he is, as Chris has said, he is a bit squishy. So calling him in on an ID may not be a bad idea. I don't know how many times you're going to be able to get that running shot power off if you've called him in on an ID though. Bear in mind you can't target the same. Yeah, you can't target the same character. You have to target a character.
He has got a long range though, and he's got a range of 8 characters. Yeah. So it depends on the map really, and if people have placed all the characters like in a reasonably small area. But I think if you can get some damage bumps, I think that's the thing. Just hitting them for 1, you might say hit 3 characters for 1 damage each. It's not like particularly impressive. But if you can boost his damage up a bit, he is going to take damage depletion modifier. But it can be quite damaging.
Moving on to the Daredevil, the Shadowlands Daredevil sat on his throne, who is dial-wise just quite a simple Daredevil dial, but with the main focus being that he can kick out hand ninjas. It's a case of if it's a power action for most times, and a free action if a hand character has been KO'd since the last turn. The hand ninjas don't do a huge amount. They're
worse than the other ninjas from the Deadpool set, I noticed, because they're the 10 points as opposed to the 15 point ones.
Actually, I would personally say they're better because they actually do something useful. If the unique modifier, if they have stealth, 3 clicks, numbers are rubbish, but if they are in hindering terrain, they can use Empower, so they can at least do something useful for your team.
Well, the other ones are got slightly better stats, I think, and they get +1 damage and range and hindrance.
And I don't even think I want to waste the action on one of them. They're fine. I mean, it's whatever with them really. He can put them in any hindering terrain square within range and line of fire. So he's only got a range of 4, so it's not a lot of places to put them down. But I mean, if they get the Empower, if someone's died, you pop them out as a free action. Daredevil's getting +1 damage up close. Why not? But apart from that, he's got Hand, Martial Arts, Mystics Ruler. He's 80 points. Starts with a click of charge, moving on to 3 with Flurry, then last 2 charge. His defense is a Mystical Senses, which is a super senses. But when he does and succeeds, you deal 1 unavoidable damage back to the person who shot you. He's got 4 clicks of that and then back 2 to the normal super senses, but he has shape change in those clicks. He has leadership for his first 4 clicks to match the mystical senses. Starts with precision strike for a couple clicks and then goes to appetite, the demonic appetite for pain, which is precision strike. But when he hits an opposing character, modify the attack value for all friendly characters with the hand keyword by +1. If he kills an opposing character with it, you actually increase the damage value as well. It's all right. I mean, it's going to be cute to see him play with a bunch of hand, but I don't think he's ever going to see actual play. Like outside of just, it's nice to have him with a hand team. Any thoughts on it, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, he's... I don't know if this is like the way forward for Pug generators, where they're actually bringing out like real characters that you score points off, because they're not I'm trying to think other people, but we've seen because Pug generators are just bringing Pugs that don't get any points off is a bit annoying if you're playing against them, but yeah, I mean, those 10-point ninjas can do a little bit of work, I suppose, and they're always just like mobile blocking terrain if nothing else, and they've got stealth, and they've got the Hydra team ability, so you get a few of them out that can do a bit, and he's not terrible. He hasn't got any damage reduction, maybe I suppose is a big thing but he's got lots of nice keywords. Yeah, not too bad.
Sure, anything?
Yeah, I quite like him. I think more for fun games than anything competitive, as you said, Dale. Love the look of the sculpt. Absolutely love the look of the figure. I've from Shadowlands, yeah. I've never read Shadowlands, but that sculpt makes me want to read Shadowlands. Yeah, I love this sculpt more than the actual dial itself. But yeah, I think this is one of the chases I want to try and get hold of, just for the look of it, really.
Fair enough. For me, I think he's the worst of the three. Like I'm a big fan of Daredevil myself, the character, but not so much the Shadowlands storyline. It was interesting, but I didn't like it. It just felt like a bit of betrayal for the character. I can't understand where they were going with it. Trying to make something of him rather than just make him a street level and stuff and getting him tied up in the hand is cute, but it wasn't great for me. But I think I'll leave Daredevil there and move on to the last one, and my favourite of one so far. It's Ironheart, the Riri Williams replacing Iron Man. 25 points, range 4, just armour and scientist as the keywords. Her dial is relatively strange. So she doesn't take damage as standard. She has broken armor tokens. It's a trait where she starts with 1 token on her card. Whenever she takes damage, or would take damage, instead you roll a d6. If you roll equal to or less than the number of broken armor tokens she has, she is KO'd. If not, you turn her dial to the number that you've rolled and give her another broken token, and it can't be ignored. Her dial the numbers aren't great. They're all kind of 2-3 damage, 18, 17 defense, 9 is mostly her attack. She has 3-9, 2-8, a 10, and then it's either sidestep or earthbound, jumping between the two, with outwit, probability to control, or perplex, just one of those 3. I mean, she's just great. I think 25 points. She's dirt cheap. She is a taxi half the time with sidestep. She always is going to have a useful damage power that is normally quite expensive, and unlike most of the 25-point figures that normally have this, things like Atomica and Domino, these kind of 25-point figures who have medium defense or kind of good defense and 3 clicks, she will just take so much more killing than the other ones. I mean, the likelihood is she's going to have to take at least, on average, it's 3 or 4 damage before she's killed. Like 3 or 4 attacks, before she's killed. And for 25 points, that's insane.
I don't think you ever want to attack her, though. Unless you really want to try and damage her without attack. Like with poison or something like that. Because you really don't want to have to
waste that.
Put it normally, because you go, right, I know Atomica, I'm going to shoot Atomica, I know what her attack is, all I need to do is hit her and do 3 damage, I know she's dead. But you could unload however much damage you want in Ironheart, and then you've only got a 1 in 6 chance to start with of actually taking her out. So you would never risk going for her at all, I don't think, which just means that she can just quite happily sit there and outwit or probe or perplex or something. You really want to try and get rid of her with non-attack damage or something to free damage, something like that.
It's gonna basically be outwit.
Yeah, so for 25 points, it's really good.
It's gonna be that first click mostly.
Yeah, I think she's really good.
it's going to be,
say again?
as you know, as Chris pointed out there, it's unlikely he's going to get targeted, or she's going to get targeted, because she really doesn't. She's not going to go down easily. There's no point in wasting the points on the attacks on her. So you're basically going to stick on that first click quite a lot. Sidestep, outwit, 10 attack and 2 damage for 25 points is fine, and a flying, a taxi with sidestep to boot.
And I think I said as well around was being a scientist. That's a really strong keyword, and there's lots of people with mastermind who are scientists. So she's a very good mastermind person, because again, only a 1 in 6 chance, however hard you hit her, to get rid of her.
Yeah. I think out of the 3 that have been spoiled so far, this is my favourite as well. As you say, you're not gonna want to attack her, are you? Because it's a lot of investment just to score 25 points, and the chances are, as you say, you're gonna have to attack her 3, maybe more times.
So you want to try and take her out with a pog or energy explosion or something like that. You really never want to.
Well, it doesn't specify damage dealt from an attack either. It just says whenever she's dealt damage.
So she can push.
So you can
Poison.
Yeah, but you don't want to. You really don't want to push her, because you could just push her and kill her. So.
Yeah, because I mean, knowing my luck, I would roll like a 1 first time she takes damage and she's dead. But yeah,
so you just want to make your opponent attack her, really.
The attack, yeah.
So she's quite a good tie-up piece as well. Just run her next to somebody and go, "Come on, hit me," because it's really really annoying.
Mm-hmm.
You just annoy them, because more than likely they'll just try and break away from you rather than waste their attacks.
So I'll
Yeah, so she'll be hyper annoying.
She's so far the one to get. But I'll swiftly move on to the one I'm excited for talking about. It's the next title character. We've got Doctor Strange, Earth's Guardian. The same title character explanation title as before. The whole can only have one, gets black and white open book powers, spends plot points, that kind of thing. Starts with 2 plot points. His black open book, the action to increase it, that is +1. Modify Doctor Strange, Earth Guardian, or an adjacent friendly character's damage value by +1. His -1 is the Last Days of Magic, which gives friendly adjacent characters the Mystic Team ability until your next turn. And the -4 ability is Sorcerer Supreme for the rest of the game. As long as Doctor Strange, Earth Guardian is on the map, you may re-roll an attack roll each turn. So that's the goal, really. It's a case of get to 4, knock it down, and all of a sudden everyone has probability control on your team. Once a turn, you should have I can reroll, doesn't matter, whatever, I will just reroll this, don't have to have line of sight, nothing. His dial is pretty mediocre for 80 points. I wouldn't say it's as obviously useful as the Deadpool.
Well, Deadpool had the longer dial, but I think Strange has better powers.
I think the defense is better on him. He's got 18 defense for 4 clicks, 17 in the last 2.
Yeah, because I think just with Psychic Blast and prob control really to start with, and then sidestep, and he's a fly as well, so he can carry people.
And for me, the one saving, the proper saving grace for this Doctor Strange in comparison to the Deadpool is that they've reeled in the negative of having on your team. As before, if you pick one of his title abilities, so the +1 damage or Mystic Team ability or trigger Sorcery Supreme, if Doctor Strange himself doesn't attack an opposing character, he gets dealt 1 unavoidable damage at the end of the turn, or whenever he's clearing action token. Which is very specific. That doesn't sound like it's worded correctly.
Well, when he clears action tokens, after clearing action tokens, not when he cleared action tokens. But at the end, basically in that phase,
clearing tokens phase.
Then if he didn't attack an opponent,
that's why I was trying to read it. Like that's how it's supposed to work. Why can't I see that? Yeah. So it's if he hasn't attacked a person, but he's still triggered those abilities, he's going to take 1 penetrating unavoidable damage back. And the other one is that if he gets killed, he deals 2 unavoidable damage to the friendly character closest to the square that Doctor Strange has just been KO'd in, which is considerably lighter of a downside than the Deadpool, which was everyone gets like 2 tokens your entire team, don't take push damage, but you basically give your opponent a free turn. Like that was just crippling for me. That's just the most brutal downside I think I've ever seen for a power in Heroclix.
I think the problem with like Doctor Strange is Deadpool could heal himself, so he was taking the 1 unavoidable if he did like his whatever powers are called. But then Deadpool could actually do the +1 to heal himself. Doctor Strange can't do that, so you don't really want to be like damaging him more than 1 click really, because then moving on, you move off your Cycle Blast prob to like charge and blades and exploit and stuff. So I think it's harder to get the +1s without some other way of like you want to maybe have somebody with support trying to heal them up really. Because I wouldn't want to. You want to like do that +1 twice, and then do the -4 if you can.
Clearly.
But I don't really want to take 2 clicks of damage to be able to do it, because then you're like much closer to dying, and the reroll each turn's only going to come into effect if you can keep him alive.
But it does say he only takes the damage if he hasn't attacked an opposing character. He doesn't have to hit an opposing character.
He still has to attack, but he doesn't have willpower.
Yeah.
And like, so you don't want to just do it automatically. Like with the Deadpool, you would probably do it automatically, knowing that I can just heal. He can just heal himself.
In the same,
but with Strange, you have to be a bit more careful around.
In the same vein, though, the
when you use
top-end Deadpool power to be able to just slow motion shoot everything was not as good as the Sorcerer Supreme reroll to everything. I don't think I'll do this weird shot and shooting everyone was half as good as just.
Well, I don't think because Deadpool hasn't been out very long. I've never played him. I've never seen him being played.
I think the Deadpool.
So I don't know how good he is really.
Opposing characters can't have a combat
that was the strongest one.
Though.
Yeah, the -2. Yeah, and Deadpool's like 10 points cheaper as well. 70 points, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's 70. Yeah.
I don't know. They've definitely got. They're definitely both strong. I still don't think. For me, I still don't think that KO'd power is necessary. I think if you strip the when KO'd trigger this horrendous effect on either character, if you took them away, I still don't think either of them would be overpowered or game breaking or overly strong for whatever reason. I just think they'd be strong, but anybody with that kind of list of effects is going to be, unless they're stupidly overcosted. I just don't see the need for that kind of downside. Like the Doctor Strange one's rough, but I still find that Deadpool one is just insanely brutal. Like to the point of I think just being unplayable. Just because of that, unless you're playing a stupidly small point game where if you've lost him, you've lost the game anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. But if you talk about 300 points, there's nothing in it. But I think I've rambled on enough, unless anyone has anything else to add to Doctor Strange.
Nope.
Well, as far as I know, that is the news from me. So moving on to the rules.
Yep, Chris, it's over to you.
Okay, well, I'm sure I've mentioned all these things before. Anyway, it's been quite quiet for rules, obviously, with the new rule announcement being finished. There's not a huge amount of new rulings coming out of the WizKids Information Network System, whatever you call it. So I thought about just going over something we've probably touched on a little bit before, and that is just basically focusing on the Pym Pocket Tank and the Pym Particle Tank. just because I've watched a couple of videos on YouTube and it's getting played wrong by everybody. So I thought, and with the Nationals coming up and with all of us playing the Pym Pocket Tank on our teams, that's a big giveaway that. I just thought it's worth revisiting and checking that we know how it's played, and hopefully some other people might know how it's played. So, just starting with the Pym Pocket Tank, which is a little one, tiny thing. There's just a couple of things around the with just a keyring trait where it follows other character, and it's just to be clear around that it follows. You can basically either carry. You've got two ways of moving it around. It follows another character after action resolve. So if another character moves, it will follow them, but only after action resolve. But you can also carry it just like it's a normal character. So when you're doing something like however you want it to move, you normally maybe say, I'm doing a running shot and then going to shoot or charge or something like that. It will not actually work with something like hypersonic, because at the moment anyway, until the new rules change. So if you're hypersonicing, you start your hypersonic with the tank adjacent to you. Then if you decide to use its follow power, you will not be able to get the attack off because it only follows you and ends up next to you after the hypersonic action has resolved. If you decide to carry it, also you will not be able to use its effect because it's technically not adjacent to you when you make the attack with hypersonic. You can do it with running shot, but you will have to carry it. You cannot use its follow power. There's a word for this follow power. Let's call it the follow power. So you're going to have to be careful. It is a tiny character. You will be able to inherently carry, but you're going to have to be mindful of other characters that you might want to carry. If you want to carry up somebody else as well, it will be your inherent carry, but you're going to then take your -2 to carry, blah, blah, blah. So just be careful about that. I've seen that being played wrong. There's a couple of rulings that are on the WizKids Information Network, which I'll mention, to do with mainly like placement effects when it drops. There's also one around where it says, just the way it's worded, when you can take the -1 to attack, and it says if you do blah blah blah, then you can try and drop the tank on somebody's head. But it's just some characters say, what happens if you can't modify your attack by -1 because you've been outsiders or something like that. It will say it works even though you may not be able to modify it. So you just need to say, I'm taking the -1, even though you might not be able to take the -1, because you have some effect that says you can't have your stats modified. That is fine. There's things that people, I think, were discussing on something or other. When you drop the tank, it is the person who drops the tank that decides where the figures are placed when they have to be placed if the tank is dropped on their heads. So again, that is the person who controls the tank is doing that. Stop me if you want to discuss anything, by the way, guys, so it's not just me talking. Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah, go on. So there was another ruling around, which is quite an important one, where the replacing of the tank and the dealing of the normal damage from the attack are trigger at the same time. So it is up to the active player, so the guy who controls the tank is choosing which damage comes first, which is very important when you're when you're looking at, right, do I want the 2 penetrating to come first, or do I want the attack damage to come first? And I'll mention this when we go on to other stuff. So you can play around with when you want to deal with penetrating damage. Obviously, if your attack that you're dealing might not be dealing penetrating damage, so if you want to knock somebody off their impervious or something like that, you might want to hit the tank. Equally, if they've got a stop click, you might want the damage to hit them afterwards, so it pushes them back the stop click. So yeah, it is up to you to choose, but you will need to specify. There's a couple of things around placing the tank. Because the tank, unlike some of the colossals, some of the more recent colossals, can't occupy different levels of elevation. So there might be a time where you actually you're taking the -1 modifier, you've hit them with a tank, and then you say, oh, I can't actually place it anywhere. So if there are no legal squares for placement, it's placed in the nearest legal and unoccupied square. So that might be that you still hit with a tank, but maybe they've got themselves in a corner or something like that, and there's no legal squares for it to be placed. It still has to be placed, and just in the nearest square that you can. Characters will only take damage if it is going to get placed in the square that they occupy. So you might hit a guy with a tank, but then the tank goes on the board in adjacent square or something like that, because you can't actually place it where you want to place it. If a character, there's also might be some weird effects where you can place the tank, but you can't actually place the character, because there might be, again with elevations and things like that, or blocking terrain, there might not be any legal adjacent squares. Again, you just have to find the nearest legal and unoccupied square and place it there.
Yeah. Place the tank there or the character there.
Well, if you just say you've got a 2x4 square of elevation, and there's a character set on there, you hit them, you drop the tank on them, so the tank now is occupying the whole of that elevation, and there is no adjacent squares. Then you just basically have to choose a legal and an occupied square and place a character there. So as long as you place the tank down legally, then the character might not be able to be placed legally, and you just have to find the nearest square that's unoccupied and place it there, even if it's not going to be adjacant to the tank.
So then if that's if that's on a lower elevation that you place in the character, do they take fall damage?
Yes. No. It's not knockback, is it?
Okay. No, because you're placing them on you.
You're just placing them there. Yeah, it's just to try and get around weird, like, terrain and things like that, where you might be able to place a tank, but again, it's things like elevation, really, because it destroys blocking terrain. So it's mainly like areas where there's different elevations and things like that to get around. Okay, so just one quick thing to do with the damage is just to highlight that it will get around stop clicks, because the damage is not from an attack. So it's just working out, if you're facing a guy with a stop click, just think about when you want to deal the tank damage or the damage from the attack. So even if somebody's got multiple stop clicks, none of them will work against the tank to penetrate damage, because it's not damage from an attack. So that works very well on things like Bizarre Green Arrow, for example.
Yeah.
There's just a couple of other things about the Pym particle tank, just moving on. The main thing is it does not have the autopilot trait, which no one else seems to notice, and it cannot take actions unless it's piloted. So there is a version of the tank that you can play with the autopilot trait. I think it's called something like Autopilot Pym Tank or something like that. Yeah. So it's a good bit of a giveaway. That does have the autopilot trait, and the other one does not. So no actions whatsoever, not sidestepping or anything like that. It can use its police team ability and enhancement, because none of those are actions. So it does score 50 points when it's replaced. So again, like Dale, do not use it when you're playing a Don't Die team, because you probably will be giving away 50 points.
Luckily, he miscounted. He didn't know the dial, so he did hit with only 2 damage and didn't kill it.
Yeah. And a couple of other things that it can't use. If you do get around to piloting it, it won't be able to use it says like pilot attacks ability or something. So basically it cannot replace its values with a pilot, and it can't pick an attack or a damage power, basically. And lastly, it can't have its defense powers counted as well.
The toughness.
So that's a lot. Yeah. So that's a lot of waffle from me, but I think it is worth it if you, because it's going to get played quite a lot. From any competitive game from now till it retires, you're going to see it. being played. So it is worth, even if you don't have one, you don't intend playing it, it is worth going through, and there's a lot of text on the card, so just go through and make, be clear about how it works and how it doesn't work. And especially if you can pick map and you can find a bit of map that with a nice bit of elevation so you could run on and go, haha, you can't put your tank down on me.
Yeah, I'm thankful that Black Lantern map was not legal.
Yeah. I have actually looked at all the modern maps, and I think there's only one map where you could do that, but I think it's like basically putting yourself out in the open if you want to run your team onto the elevation, and the elevation isn't big enough for the tank to go down on.
So I do have one thing I need to talk about with the Pym Particle Tank, which is just going to get on my absolute nerves, and I'm going to hate it and complain about it. When you throw the Pym Particle Tank, assuming that you haven't had an Ant-Man do it, or a Hank Pym, because there isn't one that is a really good trigger for it in more senses, the ram ability that it can do, it basically can't. Because it's only got a range of it can only move 4. It can only kind of do it sideways because it's 4 squares long and has to run over somebody.
You're gonna, yeah. I don't think you need to worry about that, Dale. To be quite honest with you,
it's one of these things where I dropped out. I was like, I'll do this to get out of the way. And looked, I was like, I can't. What a way! But this is just who designed this. This is ridiculous. It's not a problem with it.
Well, it's a small thing. Yeah, you're never ever gonna ram. If you ever get a pilot in it, you're gonna be shooting stuff for like 4 damage, or even if you miss, they're gonna take damage. Yes, yeah. I don't think you ever need to worry about ramming people with that, unless you're playing it at like its higher point value. And even then, I still wouldn't bother because you're just doing yourself.
Yeah. How about you just sidestep and just shoot for 6 damage for like 6 damage instead?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, I think we talked about this when it first came out. This tank is apart from the fact that you can drop it on someone's head for 2 damage, this tank is terrible. It's just awful. It's literally that, and it has really, really good improved targeting and movements. You just go, I'll park it next to my shiny jet here to give it outwit, and it will outwit you through pretty much anything. But
yeah, well, I played that with what's his face, General Lane, and it does work really well. If you're just giving it outwit, and then if you actually manage to get it to hit, then it does 4 damage, and even if you don't, then it's got enhancement and police team ability, and it's a multi-taxi for 50 points. So it's very good.
It's fine.
Yeah. So anyway, does anybody want to ask about any of those rules? Are we happy with them? We know how to play our tanks.
I know how to play my tank.
We do. I know how to play my tank.
Okay. Well, as I say, it was a quiet rules couple of weeks, so that's me.
Good. So we'll move on to Team Challenge now. Last time it was my turn to pick, and I picked the super rare Fenris from Deadpool and the X-Force set. So if you guys don't mind, I'll go first. Dale, you're due to pick for next time, so we'll go me, then Chris, then you. Yeah? Okay, so I kind of cheated a little bit with my team build.
You put the Book of Skull on it again.
No, you may think it's worse. It is a modern age team, and it does have Fenris on it, but Fenris is just a disguise for the Chameleon, because I'm running a 300-point Sinister Syndicate theme team.
I love the Chameleon.
Yeah. So it's the standard Sinister Syndicate build that you've seen and probably read tournament reviews about. It's the LE Dog Ock at 80 points, Speed Demon at 80 points, Chameleon obviously at 70, with 35-point overdrive, full round table with Fenris, Peggy Carter, and Nightwing on his disguises for Chameleon. Round table are just kind of like the lower point call-ins: there's Triathlon, Black Canary, She-Hulk, Hellcat, Shang-Chi, just in case I decide to call in Nightwing as a disguise, and then I want to try and get that outsider Shang-Chi and just keep hitting you until you die trick off. Not that I've ever managed to do it.
You probably won't, or you'll really want to just get the precision strike of his inspiration as well.
Yeah,
you're picking things that gives you +1 attack, but all the inspirations will give you something decent. Yeah,
and the Iron Fist ID for the inspiration, but I'll be playing the Civil War Daredevil, who is actually Danny Rand on that ID. So yeah, that's my cheaty team build this week.
As people have been playing, is that like just one of those lists where it's not gone to like competitive tournaments, that list, has it? Or am I missing something?
Yep.
No, it has, yeah.
So Dr. Octopus is that strong. I know we've
Dr. Octopus is that strong.
And talked about it before. I assumed that was the case. Fair enough. That's cool.
I think he's only going to get, when Outwit gets better, then he's only going to get better. And I think with the lack of Alpha Strikers, once after rotation sets in, then he's going to get a lot better, I think. Especially, you're going to outwit you, but he doesn't need Peggy Carter to take out Invincible or something like that. He can do it himself.
Brilliant. Well, that's cool.
Yours?
So, yep.
Is it me then?
Chris, you?
Right, well, I haven't just copied somebody's competitive team.
Harsh.
I've built a Hydra themed team with Fenris as promised. So the build is Fenris, Taskmaster from the Civil War set at 80 points. Hydra Agent H at 30 points. Whirlwind, because I was struggling to find somebody to carry, from the Avengers Assemble set, 83. You remember when you used to get points values where they didn't end in 0 and 5? So anyway, Whirlwind was 83, and then Imperial Hydra at 45, Pym's Particles at 2 to try and make up for the odd 83. So that comes up to a 300-point team at +5. So Taskmaster has got like Masters of Evil to copy. That's another reason why I picked Whirlwind. So he will just keep pushing and acting, and as long as you don't go to his last click, he will be fine. He's also got like Hydra or Shield team ability to copy through Agent H. Agent H can give out the Shield team ability to people who can use the Hydra team ability as well, through her trait, I think it is. Imperial Hydra can take tokens off anybody, bring in Hydra guys. Also noticed that like there's that Jackhammer in Deadpool Set has got the Hydra keyword, so he's 35 points. So if say one of your other Hydra guy dies, he's because Imperial Hydra can bring in up to 40 point people. There's also those Hydra soldiers from the Agents of Age of Ultron movie set that he can bring in as well, rather than say it's cheap. So the Hydra recruits are like 20 points, but yeah. I also think that Imperial Hydra might be worth looking at under the new rules as well, because he has Mastermind and Leadership. So he's not like great, but the ability to bring in guys for free and give you more +1 action and Mastermind suddenly becomes better because you can Mastermind on higher point guys. No, I think he's pretty decent.
Yes.
I know you've played him, Sean.
I do,
When you played him,
well, it's Matty used to play him.
Yeah.
Matty plays him used to play him quite a lot, just because he just used to like, flooding the board with Hydra. Yeah, he's quite good. I quite like him. I like the sculpt as well. I like he's sitting there in his big his big chair, just flooding the board.
I miss those sculpts. They used to be quite. There was always like the chair. There was an old Magneto, just the man in the chair. I love the fact that that's coming back as a sculpt. Why have the leader doing anything but sat on his backside in a big throne, demanding that somebody else goes and kills the people for you? Works for me.
Well, he doesn't need, because it says, he had a special leadership anyway where he could move an action token. I think it's just the fact that you get +1 action He's only 45 points, so he does quite a lot for those 45 points in a Hydra team.
Yeah.
I think with just Hydra, it's like you haven't really had any sort of really good attackers. You've had a lot of like cheap guys, and a lot of the higher points guys have been awful or not very effective. But something like Fenris and Taskmaster are two really decent ones. I mean, you could, like, if you want to play it a bit more competitively, you could drop, say, Whirlwind, put on, Proteus or something like that on Taskmaster to make him quite a bit beefier. Maybe play a couple more recruits with the enhancement or something, and then something like Fenris is rocking like 5 penetrating damage or something like that. Or you could like play 2 Fenris or something, because they're not unique or anything, so they can dish out a hell of a lot of damage and benefit from the Hydra team ability, reducing everybody's defenses. Anyway, that is mine.
So yeah, I'm
Dale, do you want to talk us through yours?
Something similar, although not quite as interesting. I just thought that Fenris is basically a really good secondary attacker. For me, if you are playing a non-themed team and you want something to secondary attack with, isn't going to just instantly die in 3 or 4 damage, I thought Fenris was probably the best one there. But I just wanted a Hydra team, so I went with Fenris, Taskmaster, the 90-point Winter Soldier from the Civil War movie set, 2 Hydra recruits, and Hydra Agent H. Same thing, give everyone Hydra team ability, give everyone Shield team ability, get Winter Soldier and Fenris's range up to like 11, and then Winter Soldier can shoot with precision strike, doing 13 attack with 6 damage. Fenris can do pretty much the same thing. This is without you can get 11 attack and 5 damage without having to put any tokens on anyone for the shield team ability, but the options there. You're obviously reducing defenses down with Hydra as well, and then Taskmaster can just get in there and just tie people up and just generally be annoying. I mean, Taskmaster's just really good for that. It's hard to kind of pin him down. And again, you can do the same thing. Drop out one of the agents, or drop out the Winter Soldier entirely. Put in some more recruits. Slot in Proteus to give Taskmaster some numbers. But apart from that, I'm not hugely different from Chris. Just a little bit less gamey about it.
Yeah, you could basically like Winter Soldier for Whirlwind or something. I was just trying to find somebody who actually could carry and give, because obviously Taskmaster being able to have Masters of Evil means he can act every turn as well. But you could also put like Brainiac. Well, I mean, I think people are putting Brainiac on Taskmaster because it gives a running shot pulse wave on one of his clicks when he turns. So having, I do think that the new rules will certainly benefit like teams like that, where you've got like a few cheapish, Winter Soldier, Taskmaster, and Fenris are all reasonably cheap and pretty effective. But having like, if you're playing like a couple of recruits, you're trying to get those because you can't carry, just like an extra action with leadership from Imperial Hydra or something like that to like move your recruit into position to get your Hydra and your enhancement off, where in the past it's like you're really starved for actions. But yeah, anyway, I think Hydra's not in a bad shape. No. With especially with Nick not retiring.
They really are not losing an awful lot in this rotation. I mean, they're losing what the Age of Ultron had 2 things. Avengers Assemble had 2 things. Grim Reaper out of the Age of Ultron storyline is just not a loss. I mean, not a loss.
Yeah, no. I've never really played much of Hydra because I didn't really like the. I don't think all of the sort of higher point Hydra ones in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. set were all like pretty unimpressive. Yeah. So it's only more the recent stuff that's, as I say, that Winter Soldier was really nice. I looked at him as well. And obviously Taskmaster and now Fenris. So, maybe worth going back and playing some more of them.
Maybe. Yeah, I thought for me, I've slightly bent the rules on the figure for the next one. I don't want a specific figure, but I was going to say with Avengers Defenders giving us a wider variety of shifting focus, I was going to suggest picking a character, or including at least one character that uses a shifting focus trait, or something similar.
Does it have to be? Yeah, I was going to say, does it have to be called shifting focus,
as
or
long
just
as it can
like
effectively take
I'm not.
a free action to shift between them, and isn't either Superman or Ant-Man.
Isn't Ant-Man?
Because
I was going to say so. We're going to see Ant-Man.
just killed the
No, I'm not going to. I'm going to.
We've used them so much amongst ourselves, and they are not interesting figures to do. I've talked, I know fine well, we've already done 8 episodes, and I've talked to the end of back about Superman. So yeah, as long as it's not Ant-Man, so that whole shifting focus one, as long as it's not Superman, any of them, probably, hopefully we'll have some more complete versions of the shifting focuses out of Avengers Defenders.
Well, I think the pre-releases start in America shortly, so we should, by the time of the next podcast, we should have the full set.
Yeah, hopefully.
Probably. So yeah, we'll get them. Although I will say now that I am going to pick Batman, because I've never really played him, and I just started looking at Batman family teams, and I'm thinking, oh, I've never really played that shifting focus Batman, so I'll have a go at him.
I'm thinking I'm probably going to have a look at Deadpool and see if I can, because I think I spoke about it, that I think because of the wide variety of options that he has and the sizable length of his dial, I think I'm going to look at him with the Possessor and see if I can make a decent team around it. Like, try to go for a maybe post-rotation competitive team out of it. Probably not going to manage it, but that's going to be my starting point, and I'll see where I end up from there.
I currently have no idea who I'm going to pick. I'm leaning towards some of the figures from the Avengers Defender set, but obviously I need to see more of their dials before making a final decision.
Just pick all of them. Just go.
All of them. Just have a full team.
I'm just going to have one 150 point character. Yeah.
You might be limited by your sideline.
Big character from like the older sets, and I'll just fill the rest with the new shifting focus people until I've run out of sideline. But yeah, so I think that's it for the team challenge. So on to Sean. I think it's your turn for the Tic Tacs.
Yes, it is. It is. I would just like to sort of start by saying tactics and strategy is not my thing. Anyone who knows me or who've probably been listening to the podcast long enough, make no secret about the fact that I don't have the right sort of brain to build my own teams and to work these things out. That's why it's such an advantage to kind of practice within a team, and practice is what I want to talk about today. And the importance of practicing your team. So more specifically, when you go to a tournament, you take along your team and you take along maybe 2 or 3 maps that you've hopefully practiced on, that you like playing your team on. What will you do if you lose map row and you're put on a map that you're not familiar with? Now, this has been something that has happened to me because I tend not to play theme teams, and I always get put on maps that I do not like, and I always end up getting hit first, don't I, Chris? So it's the importance of being familiar with maps and picking the right map for your team, and practicing on different maps and knowing what you're going to do within the first maybe 2 turns. Taking the time to work out where you're going to position your figures, what you want to do turn 1, turn 2, because if you're still trying to reposition figures at turn 2, chances are you've lost the game already. because you will get hit first. And as I found out a couple of weeks ago when practicing against Chris, that can kind of throw your game plan straight out the window. So you need to have a strategy in mind to kind of survive the first couple of turns and get into a position where you can get the alpha strike off, or you can get the first hit off, should I say. So yeah, just practice your team, practice against figures that you expect to see in tournaments. I know you can't practice against every possible scenario or every possible team that you're going to see, but you tend to know when going into a tournament what figures you expect to see, what figures are popular. Jakeem Thunder is an example, and be adaptable. So this is something I really struggle with. When I'm practicing, I tend to kind of do the same thing every single game for the first few turns. So an example would be at the last WKO I was playing a team of Batman, Superman, Robot, and Justin combo with a 2-sin Pandora's box. And my first 2 turns were always the same. Sloth went on Batman, Superman, Robot. Lust went on either Justin or Baxter. And I did that regardless of what team was in front of me. And in one of my games at my last WKO, that possibly cost me the game because I came across a KC Flash and I first turn put Sloth on Batman, Superman, Robot, when what I should have done was put Lust on Batman, Superman, Robot to stop Flash from hitting me. And because I didn't do that and I wasn't adaptable, that could have possibly cost me the game, and in fact it did. So it's practice your team, make sure you're picking the right maps and you've practiced on maps that maybe aren't that good for your team, just so you know what to do in the first few turns, and be adaptable. Don't be like I was and like programmed to do the same thing every single turn. I mean, we're not going into too much detail, but like Chris has helped me quite a bit, haven't you, Chris, with the team I'm playing for nationals?
Well, it may have helped you too much, though. Yeah.
Yeah. As in, like, when I've played you a few times, haven't I, Chris? In every turn, you were, without going into too much detail and giving too much away, you were dropping your tank before I was dropping mine.
Yeah. I think it comes into, Alpha Strike is pretty big at the moment, and sometimes you do not get more than one turn. You go right. You have one turn, because I'm not going to hit you for the first turn because of first turn immunity, but you need to then think, how are you going to position, what are you going to do to try and protect yourself from the Alpha Strike? If you're going to see a Krang across the board from you, you need to have, with a tank in his hand, and he's going to flurry you next turn, he's going to hit you 3 times and drop a tank on your head. You need to know, right, what is my best play to try and avoid just getting splattered across the map that turn. So if you don't have, you need to have a strategy before you play your tournament. There's no point trying to think of it while you're playing. So you can just look to see what are going to be the popular teams, and just have some sort of strategy in mind. It might not be a very good strategy, but at least if you have a strategy, you're more likely going to remember it rather than sweating out, thinking about what you're going to do. I mean, what I tend to do is I might not play my team very much, but I'll sit down with maps and I'll just sit down and play myself. Really, you can't really play more than like the first 2 turns, because I don't think it works really trying to play Heroclix against yourself, because you're always going to know what you're going to do when. So I just do the first placement where I say, right, this turn I'm going to do this, and I'm just working out where I'm going to place myself on different types of maps, thinking about, if I'm going to come across like a Krang team, or if I'm going to come across like a more like a Jakeem team, where am I going to, what maps I'm going to try and pick, where I'm going to place myself, even looking at what I'm going to use my perplex on or something like that. And if you have that in your head beforehand, it just makes it a lot easier, because I'm getting old. I can't really think very quickly or work out things like that.
Well, I don't
at the time, because I'll make mistakes and I'll think, oh, I've used a perplex on the wrong thing. I should have perplexed my movement up, and I'm not far enough up now. So at least if you try and do that a little bit, as much as you can.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I've always,
beforehand.
as I said, I've always struggled with. I've never really thought about, or kind of, I wouldn't say doubted myself, but like didn't really give it much thought, and you know, oh well, I kind of it doesn't matter what map I pick, because I'm not going to win map roll, so I'm at the whim of the person sitting opposite me. But in some ways, that makes it even more important to practice on different maps and think about, you know, I mean, it might not always be possible to practice on every single modern age map, and I wouldn't expect to, but you need to think about what are you going to do if you're put on this map that you know isn't very good for your team, but you've only maybe played on it once, or I'm put on this map that I've never seen before, and you kind of you rush and you position your figures, and then you realize that actually, you know, I've never seen this map. I've positioned my figures wrong, and now it's going to take me till turn 3 before I'm in the position I should have been at the start of the game. Because as I said, you chances are by that stage you've lost the game. So I mean, that's just something to think about. And
I think it does help, I think, playing theme teams if you're going to do that, because as you say, there's lots of different maps, and if you're not playing a theme team, chances are, you know, your opponent may be, and you're not going to be picking a map. So I would also, if you're playing like a complicated team, or a squishy team, certainly, if you know that, if you get on the wrong map, then you're going to die, then I would suggest playing a theme team then, because at least then you've got a chance of protecting yourself by using map, and you've got you're much easier to practice on one map than it is trying to practice on 10 maps. So playing like a decent theme team and just going, right, this is a map I want to go on 90% of the time. Only bringing like 2 maps with you think, this is one, 90% of the time I love this map, the 10% of the time I love this map. You know, I think I generally just pick a team that works well on that map, make myself as high a theme team as I possibly can, and go with there. Really, I think that, you know, the small amount of success I have ever had is playing theme teams, really, and putting preparation into things like maps. Mm-hmm. But it just, you know, and you don't actually need to play a lot of games doing that. You need to play a couple of games and maybe just sit and plan out your moves. You know, you just do that by yourself in the evening. You don't need any help.
Yeah.
But it does pay dividends, really, though, because you're much more confident in your opening moves. You don't have to sit and think too hard or for too long, really. Obviously, unless you're coming across a team that you've never seen before, which is another thing.
Yeah, which goes back to like, I mean, again, you can't, as I said earlier, you can't possibly practice against every permeation of every team, but you know, you need to be aware of what figures are popular in your region, you know, that are being played at like WKOs or you know, other big events.
You know, the sort of you're looking at, well, there's going to be lots of Justin. You know, Justin is teams, and he's got a big Alpha Strike. So you need to look at, right, how do you prepare against Alpha Strike teams? You know, how do you prepare against a team where you need to be the aggressive player? How you know, can you be defensive? You know, and how map helps you do that. Really.
So like Justin and a robot, Jakeem, Quinjet, Undying to Tech, all these sort of things you need to bear in mind.
Yeah, and sometimes map is important, map isn't important against those teams. Sometimes map, you will lose the game because you lost map roll.
Yeah.
It comes down to that, but yeah.
Yeah, well, that was just what I want. I just wanted to have a brief discussion about that because I've certainly in the last week, 2 weeks, it's something that I've been made to think about, and I've thanks to Chris, I've had some help on that. So yeah.
Well, I hope I haven't. If I do come across you, I hope the help I have given you doesn't come back to bite me on the bum.
I'm sure it won't, but at least it might make me be able to score some points and survive that a little bit longer than what I was doing in our early practice games.
Yeah, I mean, no one else is going to be. Well, Dale is playing the same. Yeah, Dale is playing a very similar team to me, but yes, I'm not sure anybody else is going to be playing the same team.
Yeah. So I think that's it for tactics. I think so, yeah. So it's been a relatively short show compared to previous ones, but it is getting late.
Nothing matter with that.
It is getting late, so if we just wrap it up there, then thanks for listening. And as usual, you can find us on Facebook and on YouTube and on Twitter and all the other social media outlets.
We have a Twitter?
We have it. We have this conversation every single week.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's it. So until next time, guys, thanks for listening, and I'll see you later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.